Hello everyone, today I will tell you about the film, The Experiment of Obedience. This story happened in real life. Sandra is the head of a small eatery. This morning she got $1,500 due to the fact that someone did not close the refrigerator and all the products went bad. And this is Rebecca, and she goes to her job, and while she was going to work, this man noticed her at work. Rebecca and the other staff will be reprimanded for not closing the refrigerator, and the working day begins, and it is absolutely no different from other days. By the way, Rebecca and Sandra are a little strained relationships, as well as Rebecca holds on to this job very much because she needs to help her family. And then the phone rings. The person on the other end of the line introduces himself as a policeman, and he says that today there was a theft in their institution. In general, the victim came to this policeman and said that a young girl with blonde hair had robbed her. This description is only suitable for Rebecca. In general, Sandra calls Rebecca to the back room and gives Rebecca the phone so that she can talk to the policeman, and naturally Rebecca denies everything and she says she didn't steal any money. Then she hands the phone to Sandra and the policeman asks her to check her purse. Rebecca, she didn't have anything in her purse either. Fines, and I've got your boss on the other line. The policeman says that the boss also demands a solution to this issue, and thus he manipulates Sandra into further actions, and it also turns out that Rebecca has a brother who has problems with the law. Next, the policeman says that it is necessary to examine Rebecca because she can hide something in her pockets. Sandra initially refuses to do this. Yes, and Rebecca does not like it, but when he says that he will come with the police, and Rebecca will have to be put in jail, they agree, so to speak, to be examined at home. But for the examination you need another understood one. And while Sandra went for a friend, Rebecca herself began to communicate with a policeman, and he said that it was better for her to do everything implicitly so that her brother would not have problems. Here comes Rebecca's friend, and the inspection begins. Sandra checks her pockets and doesn't find nothing. And then the voice on the other end of the phone says to check the underwear, because Rebecca can be tricky. Shove money right there. Rebecca obeys and takes off her underwear, and they examine her from front to back and they don't find any money. Then the policeman says that I need to take all her things, turn on the phone, and take it to the car to Sandra. Sandra logically asks why. Here, the policeman says that her brother is involved in the cultivation of marijuana, and allegedly, marijuana particles can be on her clothes. In parallel with this, the policeman praises Sandra for helping the investigation. Sandra, she takes Rebecca's things to her car. Then, Sandra comes back and picks them up again. The phone, but due to the fact that the influx of customers is large, Sandra can no longer talk on the phone, and then she lends the phone to Kevin, Rebecca's friend. Kevin is surprised when he enters the back room, seeing a half-naked Rebecca, and we finally see who is calling, and it turns out to be the guy from the parking lot. And in general, Kevin picks up the phone, and somehow the conversation with the attackers did not immediately come to him. Kevin asks too many questions and refuses to do what the attacker asks, but asks us to watch the Rebecca completely. In general, Kevin can't stand it and gives the phone back to Sandra. The attacker asks if Sandra has a boyfriend, and all this is so that he can sit with Rebecca until the police arrive. But yes, Sandra has a guy who is about to. He's coming. Upon arrival, he asks what's what, and Sandra briefly introduces him to the course of things. Well, by the way, Sandra praises all this time. They tell her what a good fellow she is, and how it helps the case. Her boyfriend picks up the phone, and the attacker meets Sandra's boyfriend, and imagine who he is. In general, he says that Rebecca needs to inspect. By the way, the man's name is Van, and the policeman convinces him that this is necessary. Sandra arrives, and Van asks if this is really the case. Everything is necessary, but Sandra did not understand something and says, yes, it is necessary. But in the end, Rebecca and Van are left alone, and Van hands the phone to Rebecca, and the voice says that if she does not cooperate right now, go to prison and stay for a long time with her brother, who is being searched. According to him, Rebecca is intimidated and ready to do what she is told, and the first thing she has to do is take off her apron, and even though she took off her apron, she still covered herself with it, which is also forbidden. Then, like a policeman says, that Van is his eyes and ears, and he needs to look at the nipples very carefully. Rebecca, and this is also important for the case. Rebecca removes his hand. He describes them. Then Rebecca is forced to turn around and bend down and say whether Rebecca is shaved or not. Then the policeman says that Rebecca should jump, because then her money may fall out. In general, Rebecca breaks down a little, but however agrees and starts jumping. The money does not fall out, but Rebecca's friend finds out that her brother is not in town at all, but the rest of the staff does not want to deal with the police, therefore, does not want to interfere. Sandra comes and tries to find out if everything is fine. They say on the phone, yes, your husband is helping the case very well, but Rebecca is trying to call for help. Sandra, however, she does not hear her at all, and he says that she should behave obediently, and he leaves again. And in the meantime, there are more and more questions from the staff. What kind of person is on the other end of the wire, and in general, what is going on in general? The phone is at Rebecca, and the policemen say that Rebecca disturbed Sandra, and this violation, and for violation there should be punishment. In general, the punishment for Rebecca will be spanking, the policeman says, and you can take the punishment and make him feel good for his help to the police. Then she passes the tube to the tub again, and, like the policeman says, that she needs to be punished. This is very, very necessary for the cause, and he reluctantly agrees to this adventure. While Van was punishing her, the girlfriend, Rebecca, offered to replace the tub, because suddenly he was tired there. The frame changes and we see how Rebecca makes Van feel good. Sandra comes and sees that Rebecca and Van are behaving very strangely and lets Van go so that he can rest. Then, a man who looks like a homeless man comes into the cafe, but this is Sandra's friend and she wants him to sit with Rebecca now. Sandra hands the phone to him and they begin a dialogue. Gerald can't stand this man. He tells me to do all sorts of nasty things. Sandra, do you understand that something is wrong here? And he calls the director, and the director says that for the first time he hears about a policeman and theft here. That's when everyone understood. Well, then the police begin an investigation. This is basically all uninteresting here. Let me tell you better how it really was in real life. And let's start with the fact that this is exactly what Rebecca looked like in real life. And she was 17 years old. She didn't work in any diner there, but in McDonald's. But she worked somewhere on the outskirts of the USA. You can say she was from the village. So that's basically most of what's going on. The movie was really in real life, and this whole story happened in 2004. In short, the bottom line is that I do not know the staff is so naive or what, but such situations have occurred all over the country, with 70 girls. As a result, Rebecca sued both Sandra and the telephone bully in general for everyone. But by the way, this is not shown in the film, and the funny thing is that the phone hooligan could not be detained for a very, very long time, and in the end he was detained, and it turned out to be some kind of security guard. As a result, Vanna was jailed for 5 years. Sandra was also sentenced to some kind of sentence. Rebecca was able to sue McDonald's $6 million, and Sandra was also able to sue $1 million as a victim and for moral. As a result, in short, Van suffered the most. But although they were able to catch the telephone hooligan after a few years, they did not bring any normal charges against him, and he eventually came out on bail of $100,000. And the funny thing is that Van suffered the most. I have all subscribe while